What's happening, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. And on the weekend, Chelsea take on Leeds in the reverse fixture following a 3-0 thrashing at Ellen Road back in August when Thomas Tuchel was in charge. A lot has changed there for both sides, in fact. Both got new managers, both struggling as in the league big time. So it's going to be an interesting affair on Saturday at the Bridge. It is must-win for both teams, must-win for Chelsea because with 2 wins in 16, Graham Potter's job on the line. And for Leeds, need to build on that momentum from the 1-0 win against Southampton and Javi Grazia's first game in charge and try and pull away from those relegation places. So there's plenty to play for. It's a massive game. Stakes are high. And I'm delighted to be joined by Oscar from All Leeds TV. Mate, welcome to the channel. Thanks so much for coming on. What have you made of Leeds' season so far? Just kind of a brief summary. Obviously, back in August, you smashed us 3-0 at Ellen Road. I was up at that game. It was a depressing trip from London. By the way, really nice stadium. One of the best that I've been to, Ellen Road. Great crowd, great atmosphere. Result was poor. But yeah, what have you made of what's happened at Leeds this season? Because safe to say, from that point against Chelsea, it's been pretty bleak.
Yeah, I think in terms of form, I don't know if it's still the case, but certainly before the Southampton game, we're actually bottom of the table for form since that Chelsea game. So we've been pretty dire since the third week of the season. And listen, I think in that game as well, it wasn't a case of, I personally don't think it was a case of Chelsea were that bad. They obviously weren't at their best, but I think it's a case of we just were unbelievable on that day in terms of everything that we wanted to be under Jesse Marsch. Just all came together in that particular game. It hasn't done since, it hasn't done before that. It was just that particular 90 minutes, just something clicks that day for us. And sometimes you get that in the Premier League from time to time. But yeah, I mean, our season's just been completely downhill since then. Completely downhill. Defensively, we can't keep a clean sheet particularly. Going forward, the goals have dried up a little bit in recent weeks. And all in all, it's just not been great to watch results-wise. And not a lot of positivity around the place at this moment in time. But having said that, Javi Grazia's come in. And it's a decent little impact so far. I think I feel better about Leeds. I think before Javi Grazia came in, I was pretty certain we were going down. I think now we've got a chance. Yeah, I'm not saying we're going to stay up, but I think we've got a chance now. I think before that, we didn't have any chance at all. I think we've been sleepwalking towards this relegation battle since the World Cup. Some would argue before the World Cup. And yeah, it's just not been good enough. I think 2 wins from 16 for you guys. And it's not too dissimilar for us. Before Southampton, I think it was about 2 and 18 for us. So it's not exactly got the makings of a classic, this one, to be honest, in terms of quality of football. But I think for both teams, for us, listen, I'd be happy with a point. I know Chelsea, you're not on the great run. It's probably a good time to play Chelsea from an opposition point of view. But I'm still under no illusions. Quality-wise, you've got superb footballers who, at any given moment, can cause us massive problems. So if we can get a result here, it would be a big bonus for us still. Obviously, you know, I think we've got to play to try and win the game because I think that's the only way we can play. But if we can get something, I'd be absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, I mean, talk about goal droughts. I know all too well about that. We scored 1 goal in February. João Felix automatically won the goal of the month because it was the only goal we scored that month. So, you know, goal droughts are something we know about. But yeah, in terms of obviously Leeds so far, I mean, you mentioned it. Jesse Marsch was manager at the start of the season. Obviously, got sacked in January. How did that go down amongst the Leeds fans? I mean, how do you view his work there? Because obviously, I guess by the time it came to the end, I think pretty much the majority of the Leeds fan base, at least from what I could see, were quite happy for him to go.
Yeah, I think it's probably about 95% of the fan base was probably happy, but maybe even more than that. I think, to be honest, it had been rumbling on since the World Cup where Jesse Marsch, it always felt like it was 1 or 2 really bad results away from the sack. And I'll be honest, I think we probably should have done it sooner. I think Cardiff in the Cup for me was the kind of the peak where I was thinking, this just isn't going to work. You know, we've dominated the game against Cardiff. Well, not dominated the game. We've had a lot of the ball against Cardiff. They've got play through our press twice and scored twice, you know, and this is Cardiff. No disrespect to Cardiff, but they're towards the bottom of the Championship. The fact they scored 2 goals against us so easily, and we just could not break them down at all. We didn't have any kind of structure, any sort of plan on what we wanted to do with the ball. It was all about our pressing. It just wasn't great to watch. It was okay against the top teams, you know, against yourselves, Liverpool. You know, it served us pretty well. We were competitive against Arsenal and Tottenham as well earlier in the season. But all in all, it just had to happen. And really, we waited a little bit too long, I felt, because we had a sort of a period of games of Villa, Brentford and Forest where we took 1 point from all 3. And I think really certainly Javi Gracia, we're not even sure he's the answer yet, but I do think he would have at least probably won one of those three. Because let's be honest, I don't think Villa, Forest or Brentford were particularly great the times we played them. They were a lot better than what they showed against us, but we caught them on good days and we just couldn't capitalise at all. So, yeah, it was a tough one to take, but I think all in all, it had to happen with Jesse Marsch. He never quite got it, I thought, in terms of what it needs to be like a Leeds manager. I think Chelsea have had managers like that as well. Obviously, the likes of Rafa Benitez, where you could kind of tell pretty early doors it was never quite going to work. There was too much personality-wise. There was too much difference. Other managers Chelsea have had as well, of course. Sarri as well. I think it was a bit of a similar kind of situation where just never. They've done decent at other clubs, done really good at other clubs, but didn't quite fit what Leeds United were about. And it just felt like one that was just not going to work from pretty early doors, really. And maybe we did wait too long to make the decision. Nice fella, but ultimately, I'm not sure he's a Premier League manager.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, just on that waiting too long point, were you surprised that it almost seems like, well, at least to me from the outside, that the ownership, the board, etc., kind of signed players for Marsch in January, sort of knowing that he was going to go? I'm not saying that Grazia perhaps wouldn't, or the new manager wouldn't want the likes of players like Weston McKennie and whatnot, but maybe you would have gone for a completely different profile of player had someone else been in charge. Let's be honest, McKennie came because of the American links with Marsch. Obviously, Tyler Adams is there as well and whatnot. Do you think that's do you think that's a mistake in hindsight to allow Marsch to bring in players in January to then get rid of him towards the end of the window?
Yeah, there's a case for that. But what I would say is that one of the signings we did make, who we perhaps wouldn't have made if it hadn't been Jesse Marsch in charge, was Max Verber. He's been absolutely outstanding for us. And to be fair, our defensively, we're still not perfect defensively. There's still a lot of room for improvement. But statistically, on the eye, we are clearly better defensively with Max Verber in the team. And he was one of Jesse Marsch's mainstays at Salzburg. So, that worked really well for us. Rutter and McKennie, again, certainly McKennie, as you say, was probably, sort of a Jesse Marsch type of signing because he kind of fitted Jesse Marsch's style of football. But I still think, someone like a Weston McKennie, most managers would want to work with. So it does annoy me a little bit, but not as much as, maybe sticking with Jesse Marsch for as long as we did annoys me. I think Rutter has looked better under Gracia than what he did under Jesse Marsch. And yeah, it's quite telling in that respect. But yeah, that was something where you think, realistically, I think the World Cup was the time to make a manager change, really, for most clubs. I think you saw it with Wolves. Yes, Wolves were still a little bit inconsistent, but they were going one way before the World Cup, and all their recruitment this sort of January has been built around, Lopetegui coming in, terms of, as you say, Sarabia has come in, clear projects for Lopetegui to work with, and that just didn't feel like the case for me. It just felt a little bit scattergun. In terms of what we've done in January. But to be fair, they have improved us signings, so we'll wait and see. Could we have made better signings? There is a case for that. Unahi, who started in Morocco at the World Cup, was linked with us for quite a while. The price mentioned as well was very attractive, sort of 20 million for someone who was only 20, 21. Yes, he's a little bit inexperienced, but certainly someone who could have fitted into our team really well, especially if we're going to a 4-3-3. He could have really brought that little bit of craft and ball carrying and sort of guile that our midfield's kind of lacks a little bit. So that's probably one that, had we had Gracia in charge, I think we probably would have gone through Nahi rather than McKennie in midfield. But all in all, I still think we've got the squads that should be good enough to stay up in this league. I know it might sound a little bit biased in that lot, but I still think in terms of the quality we have in the team, is still better than what we had last season, what we had under Marcelo Bielsa. I still think there's better potential. I'm not saying it should be finishing in the top 10. It should be comfortably safe, but I still think it should be, all in all, above the relegation zone.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's definitely 3 teams worse than you this season. I know it doesn't quite work out like that, but you look at it, there's definitely 3 teams that I'd say are comfortably worse than Leeds. I think you have enough to stay up, but ultimately, you're never too good to go down. Teams are down the bottom end of the table for one reason: they simply haven't been good enough over the course of the season. Just very briefly on the managerial kind of replacement for Marsch, in terms of the search and how it was conducted and whatnot. Did you look at it as a bit of a mess? Because from my perspective, looking at it, it was like kind of going after a few managers, couldn't get the guy from, I forget his name now, from Valladolid in Spain, or was it Yeah, him. Couldn't get him to come. Obviously, went for the guy at West Brom, Carlos Corberan. Obviously, I think he'd been working with. I think he worked at the Leeds and the coaching team in the past. Couldn't get him to leave West Brom. And do you almost feel like you've stumbled across Grazia because you kind of ran out of options, or because Grazia, we're being honest, he wasn't the first choice, was he? Because they would have gone straight to him otherwise. I mean,
Yeah,
how do
yeah,
you
of course.
how do you view that that sort of kind of managerial replacement process, as it were? Do you think it was a bit of a mess from the club?
I mean, I split it up into two parts. I thought at first it was quite well organised. We had a clear kind of idea of what manager we wanted. Corberan got linked, Iraola, on a slot from Feyenoord as well. All kind of similar styles of football. Possession based. Do like to work with younger players, high pressing, very kind of easy on the eye football, very much about improving the players they've already got. Certainly a Corberan and Iraola have proven to be the case in the jobs they've done so far. So I was happy in that respect, and I did think maybe a little bit naively, I felt we could have got one of those over the line. It proved that that wasn't the case. Feyenoord were too deep into their season. They were pushing for the title. Vallecano were having an unbelievable season at the time, pushing for top four. And West Brom had completely turned their season around and probably had as much chance of being in the Premier League as what we do, next season, and probably still do. So from that point of view, obviously those type of appointments failed. Then we started getting linked with people like Nuno Espirito Santo, Steven Gerrard. Trying to think who else got linked. Gallardo as well from River Plate.
Yeah.
Who else do we have? Tata Martino, who's managing Mexico at the World Cup. And then sort of all that went quiet and it just became a little bit scattergun. Then we put Michael Skubala in charge for more games. In terms of it almost felt like we were trying to see, can we see the season out of Skubala? That was very naive, I felt. That was where it started to get a little bit panicked. We had a terrible performance at Everton, which I think really kicked everyone into gear because then Javi Gracia basically got the job pretty much 24 to 36 hours later. He was pretty much in the job. So it felt like it really kicked us into gear, but it shouldn't have took that, Charlie. It shouldn't have took us to lose that Everton game so dreadfully, because that could still be what comes back to haunt us this season. Everton are only just behind us. They're only just behind us. We could have had a big lead on Everton at this point now if we hadn't messed that game up so badly. And that's the frustration, really. But it became, the first half of it was good. Like the first couple of days, I thought, we've got a good idea what we want to do here. Maybe we've sounded out some of these managers before we sacked Marsh. I think at one point as well, before Marsh was even sacked, we're going back to October here. Lopetegui was actually linked with us for a little bit. So we had a clear idea about what we wanted. So I was happy with that. But as soon as we couldn't get this sort of top three, top four, it became scattergun, all sorts of different styles of football, different experience, different types of manager. And in the end, Javi Gracia, I think in the situation we're in, the fact that everyone was so down after that Everton defeat, having that Premier League experience, his personality as well. I think maybe a Nuno, a Benitez actually was mentioned as well at times. I think maybe that Gracia, he's got a different kind of personality. He's a warmer kind of personality, a bit more of a Bielsa-like personality where he's just humble. He kind of just fit into what you want from a Leeds manager from a personality point of view. Whether he will do from a tactical recruitment, etc., point of view remains to be seen. But all in all, considering how scattergun it got, it could have gone a lot worse than Gracia, to be honest. But we did not half make a mess of it at times. It really did seem a bit. It felt like at one point, we could have ended up with anyone. Honestly, we could have ended up with Steven Gerrard at one point. So it did seem a bit really, really scattergun at one point.
I mean, just moving towards the game, but before we get into that briefly, it's always interesting to get opposition fans' thoughts on Chelsea and kind of the situation that's going on there. Obviously, a bit of a crisis for us at the moment. Graham Potter under severe pressure, reportedly 2 games to save his job, this one and Dortmund. Obviously, a lot of new players have come in the January window. It's not an easy situation, but at a club like Chelsea, with the quality available in the squad, those excuses don't really hold much and they don't sit too well with the fans because of the expectation there is. From an outsider looking in, what have you made of the situation going on at Chelsea and kind of what have you made of the job that Graham Potter's done there?
Yeah, I think with Chelsea, it's an interesting one, really, because you go back to a little over under 2 years ago, you're winning the Champions League final, thoroughly deserved as well. It's one of those where you're thinking Chelsea are probably that team who's going to really threaten City now. Never mind your Liverpools or your Man Uniteds, etc., etc. It's probably Chelsea who are like, at the next point in terms of they could be the team that really threatens Man City's dominance on the Premier League. And it just feels like it's been a steady decline since kind of August of 2021, really, in terms of obviously Lukaku came in. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be two-faced here. I thought at the time, Lukaku, wow, what a signing that is. That makes
we
so
all
much
did.
sense.
We all did. It was like going to be
then,
the missing piece of the puzzle who's going to get us all the goals. It was an absolute disaster.
I thought you were going to win the league at that point. I thought you've got the signing you needed. City is still trying to do this false nine thing. It might not work over a season. Lukaku's going to score 25, 30 goals in that team. It just feels like since that, it's not just Lukaku's fault. Obviously, there's other bits and pieces. You probably didn't have the depth you needed as well, and it's just been that steady decline, kind of since probably like Christmas this time last year, kind of thing. Obviously, the ownership situation with Abramovich, etc., that's probably not helped things, and it just feels like it's been a steady decline since then. And obviously Tuchel getting sacked, I personally felt that was probably a little bit too soon. I thought you probably should have given Tuchel a little bit more time. I think he did have enough credit in the bank. I do think he probably could have turned that situation around, in all honesty. But then obviously Potter came in. Initially, I thought with Potter, I just didn't think he was the right fit from the off, really. I think I did say it on Twitter at the time, and I got a bit of stick for it. But I always felt a little bit to me like when Rodgers went to Liverpool, in terms of it felt like, in terms of the job he had at Chelsea, the fact he was replacing someone who'd been so successful in Tuchel in terms of getting you to cup finals, winning Champions Leagues, moving you up the league table, it felt like a big job that, in terms of the expectation level was totally different. And it's no disrespect to Chelsea, but I don't think Chelsea, it's ever been kind of about the style of football so much. It's all been about winning. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong. It's not like City or Arsenal, where Arsenal, they kind of want this specific style of play under Wenger, under Arteta. Under Chelsea, it feels like you've kind of gone from Mourinho in terms of being maybe a little bit more part of the bus, etc. Not fully defensive, but from time to time he'll be defensive, to like an Ancelotti. He'll be a lot more on the front foot. Then to Mourinho again, then to Conte. So it doesn't feel like Chelsea have ever had that kind of fixed, specific style. And they've just gone from manager to manager. When one reign wasn't working, they just tried someone else. And that's suited Chelsea really well. And Potter just did seem the right fit. It's a bit like a Sarri in terms of a bit more of a project manager. No doubt, there's no doubt he's a good coach, by the way, Graham Potter. There's no doubt about that. But there's a difference between being a coach and a manager. And I think at the minute, a lot more of it's on being a manager than a coach, because he's already got ready-made players who are already top-class players, with egos and that lot. You see the Aubameyang situation. I'm not saying Aubameyang's necessarily the answer. I don't think he is the answer necessarily for Chelsea, but that does show that maybe he's not the best at managing the big names. And Tuchel, you could possibly say as well, with how he managed the Lukaku situation, was a similar situation. So, for me, with a Chelsea, I felt like a Zidane probably made a lot more sense, or even an Ancelotti coming back, etc. Someone who's already, because you're always going to spend on the building. You're going to bring in franchise players. You just need someone, a manager who's just basically doesn't even need to do much coaching, because the players are already so good. They just need a balanced system and just to be allowed to express themselves. You're looking at like a Sterling playing at wing back. It's just it just doesn't make sense. And even when Potter started quite well, I did still have my doubts about it. It just never quite felt like the right fit, really. I thought Potter probably suited Tottenham more, where it's still obviously want to win. Tottenham, I'm not saying that, but it's less pressure. I think Chelsea, you either win or you don't win, and you're sacked pretty quickly. So the only thing that surprises me a little bit, and by the way, I think Potter will not be short of offers from teams outside the top six. I think even Leeds, Gracia's only on a 6-month deal. If it goes wrong with Gracia, I've no doubt he might be on our list as such. And I think he does suit that type of job. But like Rodgers at Liverpool, Hodgson at Liverpool, Emery at Arsenal, all sorts of different examples, it just never quite felt like the same fit. I don't like the phrase, the club's too big for him, but it did feel like that for Potter pretty early doors. And, it's... I didn't think it goes badly as what it has done. I cannot believe how you cannot score goals with that kind of attacking talent. It's just and not have any kind of way of finding out your best 11. It's just absolutely unbelievable. And it's a strange one. It's a really strange one how it's gone that badly.
Yeah, I don't think no Chelsea fans expected it to go back that badly. Obviously, like, it's a new era, new regime. Like, under the previous ownership, we would have never appointed someone like Graham Potter, who was always win-now managers, big names. Come in, you're here for 18 months, 2 years, you win a load of stuff. you fall out of everyone, then you move on, rinse and repeat with the next big name. And like we're not used to having like a manager who is with a lesser reputation, as it were, in terms of trophies. Like he's got a lesser CV, but it doesn't mean that he's not been successful in his career, because he has, to get to the point that he's at now. But I look at it and I just feel that like he started off quite well. I think we were unbeaten in his first 9 games, and then we went to the Amex and got hammered 4-1 at Brighton. And then from there, it's kind of just fallen apart. It almost looks to me like he's abandoned his coaching principles and the principles that got him to this position in the first place. At Brighton, he was always a back three kind of team. We started off playing a back three under par. Then the last time we saw the back three was at Brighton. We haven't seen it since. I don't understand why we've abandoned it, because we played our best football under him in that system. Wolves, Milan, and the Salzburg game in Austria were probably our 3 best performances this season, all using the back three system. It's suddenly just like these new players have come in and we've just abandoned all those principles that made Potter good and kind of what we've had success with in the very recent past. So like, I think we're just a little bit lost at the moment, not really sure what to do. But moving ahead to the game on Saturday briefly to round out, Leeds got some dangerous players. Obviously, the likes of Somerville, Sinisterra, and Willie Nonto as well up front. They're going to be key players. I mean, do you expect all 3 of those to play in the front line, or do you think it's kind of 2 from those 3, 1 from those 3? Because those are kind of the danger men. I mean, I like Jack Harrison as well. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, it's tough to say, because the first game under Grassi, we played a 4-2-3-1. Fulham at midweek, we played a 4-3-3 and played much better. Despite losing the game, we played a lot better and looked a lot more balanced with a 4-3-3. So I have a feeling we'll stick with the 4-3-3. You'll see a midfield of Adams, McKennie and Rocker, because
decent midfield that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Rocker especially, I think, is probably one of the more underrated players outside the top 6. I won't say most underrated, because there's still elements of his game he has to improve, but that's a good midfield for me. It's probably the best bit of our team at this moment in time. And then I think Sinisterra, I don't think he's going to be fully fit. That's been the problem with Sinisterra. I think had he been fit all season, I think it would be fine, to be honest, because he's just so ruthless in front of the goal. He's not like the most eye-catching player to watch, if you're watching it just with your eyes, but in terms of stats-wise and in terms of just pure efficiency, is absolutely ridiculous, to be honest. In terms of outside the top 6, in terms of finishing, he is among the elite in terms of the clubs outside the top 6. And yeah, that's been a problem for us. So it's going to be probably Somerville, Rutter, and Nonto. And listen, that's a very talented front 3, but it does lack a little bit of ruthlessness. That did show against Fulham. So I'd expect it's probably going to be the same team, because Rodrigo and Sinisterra, it looks like they're still injured. I'd imagine it'll be something pretty similar to what we saw against Fulham. Maybe with Ayling staying at right back, and Koch and Verber, hopefully Verber if he's fit, going centre back, but probably a pretty similar team to what you saw against Fulham, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's some dangerous players in there. We're going to have to be on top of our game. Obviously, no Thiago Silva at the back is going to be... It's not ideal. We've got capable replacements, but it's never the same when we haven't got kind of the glue holding it together in the back line. But having said that, we've not conceded that many goals lately. I mean...
that's been
defensively,
a massive...
Defensively, we're good. Defensively, we're not bad. I mean, we're still losing matches, but we're losing matches by 1 goal. So we lost 2 goals at Tottenham, but... Generally speaking, we don't let that many in.
But the wonder goals, aren't they? It's not like teams are breaking you down. Like the James Ward-Prowse free kick, it's not like teams are breaking you down and having like 4 or 5 chances a game.
No, it's not. We're not getting battered in games, but regardless, at Chelsea, like losing this many games is unacceptable. It just that can't be tolerated. So I don't really know what system they're going to go with, and I think that's a massive problem as well. Is that there's no continuity in the team. It's a different starting lineup every week. Different players are left out the squad. There's a lot of rotation. Doesn't help when you're trying to settle new players in as well. So I don't really know what team we're going to go with, but we desperately need a result. I mean, Oscar, to round out, mate, what's your score predictions for the weekend? Because obviously you beat us 3-0 at Ellen Road earlier in the season. Last season at Stamford Bridge was a cracker. I think it was 3-2 to us in the end, last-minute penalty. How do you see this one? I mean, you touched on it earlier. Probably never a better time to play Chelsea with how crap we are at the moment. But what are your thoughts score-wise?
I think last season was one of our best performances of the season, to be fair, and that was when Chelsea really were on, towards the top of their game. But I'm expecting a less exciting, less frantic game this time around. I think both teams might be a little bit on the cautious side. So I'll go over 1-1, but I can't see us winning it, to be honest. I think if I'll be totally honest, I think if either team's going to win it, it probably would be Chelsea. But I'll go over 1-1. I just think both teams are lacking that little bit of ruthlessness in the final third to maybe take all 3 points. But I think we can be competitive in this game at least. But I don't think these are the games that are going to define our season, really. it is one of those things that if we can get something from it, I'd be buzzing.
Yeah, no, to be honest, mate, I'd just be happy with a goal at this point in time. It's been so long. I've forgotten what it's like to score. I mean, we haven't won a game since January 15th, which doesn't seem that long, but for us, that's a long time.
It's crazy for a top
We
16 to go.
scored one goal since then as well. The only goal we've scored since then is the West Ham goal. So yeah, I mean, I'll take a goal at this point, but I agree with you. I think it would be a 1-1, and there'll be more pressure on Potter, and we'll move on to Dortmund in the midweek. But Oscar, thanks so much for your time, mate. Massively appreciate it. If the people want to check out more of what you do, All Leeds TV, etc., where's the best place for them to go?
So you can find us on YouTube, All Leeds TV and YouTube. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok now as well, actually. So if you can follow us on that as well. We do try and be as non-biased as we can. That's a bit more difficult than it sometimes can be sometimes. But yeah, if you want to watch the Leeds perspective after the Chelsea game or before the Chelsea game, then head over to All Leeds TV. And we do try and do a little bit of general Premier League chat as well. So, if you want to follow us, please do.
Yeah, guys, make sure you do that. I'll link all those socials in the description below. Also be tagged in the video title. So please go and head over to the guys' channel, help them out, subscribe to All Leeds TV. Yeah, guys, great video. Leave your thoughts in the comments as always. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you again in another video soon.